We have reached review time with Imperial, and today's review will be Tetris, the movie. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get into it. So let's go over the cast. Starting off with Taron Egerton, plays as Henk Rogers. Miles Barrow plays as Dennis Jackson. Rick Yoon plays as the bank manager. Toby Jones plays as Robert Stein. Alexey Chetko plays as Alexey Chetko. Oleg Stefan plays as Nikolai Belikov. Roger Alon plays as Robert Maxwell. Anthony Boyle plays as Kevin Maxwell. Ayan Nagabuchi plays as Akemi Rogers. And that's pretty much the main of the cast because there's so many different characters. But let's get into the storyline. So Tetris. Anybody from the 80s know when Tetris came out? It wasn't like the most like Super Mario Brothers and all this, like the glamour and the glitz of the game, but it's one of them games that you could see yourself wind up playing for hours just glued to it, trying to get high scores. And once you get to certain levels, it gets faster, and then you just see how time consuming, how far you could get. And so it's always been like a cool game to play. But it was a hit in the 80s, and then it was most of us couldn't even afford a Game Boy. So you might have had a friend or somebody you knew that was close to you that had a Game Boy to even play it. I don't recall Tetris on the actual Nintendo game. I only remember it from the people who had the Game Boy playing it on there. So, and then them little handheld games. So, a lot of people, like this, when you think of the nostalgia, the history, around the time of the Game Boy, it was them little handheld games that you could play as well. So there's a lot of that going on. Nevertheless, this is a cool movie. I kept seeing the trailer for it, been meaning to get to watch it, and finally took some time out to see the history of Tetris and how it came about. And a lot of interesting storyline on how it came to be when it almost wasn't. So you got Henk Rogers in 1988. He was part of Bullet-Proof Software, and he was at a game convention in Las Vegas. And part of that game convention, he seen that there was a game, Tetris, that everybody was tuned into. So of course he's thinking, listen, we need to get this. It's only in a small market. We need to get this out in the open. So he goes and try to get the rights and licensing. So that's what triggered everything or whatever. So he goes to one group to get the licensing. They say they got the licensing, and then he goes to another group and they got to narrow it down. Well, while this is going on, it shows the person, Alexey Pajitnov, who actually made Tetris. Now, when he made it, programmed it, had the code for it and everything, the way it looks when they finally did it for the game, it looked totally different from how he originated. But he was part of in Moscow. They didn't allow. He couldn't even benefit off of it. They just pretty much just took his game. They're making money off the game when he didn't. So that's the world he lived in. So that's the whole build up of this, of Henk Rogers going through all the different channels. You find out that all the deceitfulness, that one group didn't have no licenses because they didn't own nothing. and it was a bunch of people who just kept selling licenses and um, distributing the games, and they didn't even have the right to even do that. So you find out all that in a nutshell. After all the ups and downs, trials and tribulations, you see Hank Rogers believed in it. He bet his world on it. His last Nintendo introduced him to the Game Boy, and where they were just about to just put out Super Mario Brothers, but he was saying, well, we could get licensing for handheld games too, and pretty much you can put package Tetris with the Game Boy as well. And we all know it exploded, man. It exploded, man. Everybody, I mean, Nintendo was a splash, because all it was at the time, it was like Atari. Nintendo came out and just controlled everything, and then when Game Boy, that just took it to another level, because now people could be in the car, could be anywhere at work, and they got a variation of the game playing, handheld. So that was like, that exploded. That took things to a whole nother level. So nevertheless, Hank got Nintendo involved. They had to eventually go over there and get a deal, finalize it, and they could have been stopped, literally. However, they pulled through, finally got the deal signed, and then they went back after it exploded. They went and Game Boy was launched. They sent Alexey the Game Boy, and on the back of the Game Boy it was a one-way ticket for him and his family to come to America. And so he had a wife and 2 kids, so he couldn't really buck the system. And once he came over officially, he got to reap the benefits of the game he created, and the rest is history. So in a nutshell, it's a good watch. Take the time to, if you got some extra time, take the time to watch it. So I just gave you a real brief summary of everything, because it's a lot of ups and downs, back and forths, and a bunch of different character names that you be like, well, what's that, or who was he, and then you get confused on that one. So it's a lot of back and forth, but nevertheless, it's entertaining enough to watch. It's almost a 2-hour movie. Out of my 4-star rating system, I give it a 3 out of 4 stars. It was nostalgic. It was good to find it, to read the history behind Tetris, and Hank Rogers. He believed in something. He didn't give up on it, and he risked it all, and he got the biggest reward from it. So till next time,